As we all know, these days women now do what men do. And as a result, Rwanda is spurring the generation of women to take over technology. Rwanda, which is the foremost champion of women in ICT and in the field of science technology, is now spurring generation of women who will take over technology in the world. Let's go briefly on this.
Rwanda is renowned as a pioneer for gender equality. In 2020, it was the only African country ranked in the top 10 of the World Economic Forum's Global Gender Gap Report. It ranked in the top 4 in the report's political empowerment category in recognition of the high proportion of Rwanda's women lawmakers and ministers. The Coding for Employment flagship program is establishing 130 ICT centers for excellence in Africa, training 234,000 youths for employability and entrepreneurship to create over 9 million jobs. The government of Rwanda has been a foremost champion of women in ICT and in the fields of science, technology, engineering, and mathematics, also known as STEM, by driving initiatives like the establishment of the Carnegie Mellon University Africa campus, for which the bank provided funding. Students from 17 different countries pursue highly specialized ICT skills at the African campus. The country also hosts the African Institute of Mathematics, which is now recruiting balanced cohorts of women and men. Lastly, the bank-funded University of Rwanda College of Science and Technology has for many years produced women leaders in ICT sector in Rwanda and globally. Rwanda government also supports initiatives such as Miss Gig Rwanda competition, an initiative of Girls in ICT Rwanda, which aims to encourage school-age girls, even those in remote areas, to develop initiative tech or business ideas and to generally immerse themselves in ICT. The Miss Gig initiative has now been rolled out in other countries in the region. Besides the Rwanda Coding Academy, the bank's Coding for Employment program held a 2-day masterclass for girls and young women entrepreneurs at the 2018 Youth Connect Summit, where over 200 beneficiaries were trained in using digital tools to amplify their businesses. The session was attended by women entrepreneurs as well as students from girls' schools in Kigali, including those from White Dove School, which is an all-girls school fully dedicated to training in ICT. The masterclass culminated into a pitching exercise from various groups, which presented their ideas to a panel of judges. Lastly, Rwanda promotes women leaders in the ICT and innovation sector. The country's Minister of ICT and Innovation is a woman, as is the CEO of the Irembo platform. Appointments such as these are helping to dispel the myth that women are not capable as men in ICT.
A board of directors of the African Agricultural Development Bank have approved a reallocation of $3 million to Togo in a loan resource to help Togo purchase agricultural input for food security as a result of the coronavirus pandemic. Stay tuned.
The board of directors of the African Development Bank have approved the reallocation of $3 million in loan resource to help Togo purchase agricultural inputs to enhance food security in the wake of the coronavirus pandemic. The approval on the 18th June enables required funds from a previous approved African Development Fund loan to be channeled to the Togo Agro-Food Processing Project for the purchase of fertilizers, organic pesticides and seeds for approximately 150,000 smallholder farmers. The implement will help farmers to handle the effects of COVID-19 during the coming cropping season. Since the World Health Organization declared COVID-19 a pandemic in March, African governments have adopted strict containment measures which have had adverse economic effects across the continent. The health crisis has already disrupted food chain throughout impacts on food supply and demand, and a decline in producers' purchase power, production capacity, and access to agricultural inputs. Togo is highly dependent on its agricultural sector, which accounts for more than 14% of GDP and employs 65% of its active population. If the pandemic persists, the risk of food crisis similar to that of 2008 is quite high. The government of Togo wants to avert a crisis by taking the appropriate measures, in particular by purchasing quality agricultural inputs for producers. The use of this input is projected to boost additional production of 12,700 tons of maize, 18,000 tons of rice, 1,700 tons of cement seeds, and 2,200 tons of market garden produce. In addition to the produce, the effects of COVID-19 on food security, the planned input procurement operation will ultimately contribute to the increasing production and thereby reduce food imports, Director Martin Farange said. To help curb the effects of COVID-19 in Africa, the African Development Bank has set up a COVID-19 response facility of up to $10 billion to provide regional member countries the resources necessary to deal with the pandemic. The budget support package worth $27.44 million to Togo is currently under consideration to provide further support to enhance the nation's economy and health resilience in the face of COVID-19. As of 23rd June, Togo has recorded 569 cases of COVID-19 with 13 deaths and 380 recoveries. In addition to reducing the effects of COVID-19 on food security, the planned input procurement operation will ultimately contribute to the increasing production and thereby reduce food inputs, Director Martins Fregine said.
Okay, moving to Nigeria. The Ogoni community and civil society organization are agitating for government to clean up environmental degradation as a result of pollution caused by oil drainage in the community. Stay tuned.
For over 60 years, the Nigerian government exploited oil and gas resources in the Niger Delta region. During this period, extensive pollution of the air, water, sediments, and soil in local communities in the region exposed humans and other life forms to severe health risk. At some point in the early 1990s, the Ogoni communities and civil society organizations agitated for the government to clean up environmental degradation in the area. As a response, the Nigerian government commissioned the United Nations Environment Programme, UNEP, to undertake an environmental assertion of Ogoni land. In 2011, UNEP released the report that provided scientific evidence to the massive environmental pollution occasioned by oil spillage in Ogoni land and provided recommendations. In 2016, the Nigerian government flagged off the clean-up of Ogoni land and re-established the Hydrocarbon Pollution Remediation Project (HAPREP) in 2017 April. HAPREP primary responsibilities are to determine the scope and means of social and groundwater remediation, enhance local capacity for better environmental management, as well as ensure livelihoods and sustainable development, ensure security and promote peace-building efforts in local communities, strengthen governance, transparency, and accountability in the region. Till date, HAPREP activities on Ogoni has focused on determining the scope and means of soil and groundwater remediation and local capacity building. It is important to mention that two other mandates of HAPREP as highlighted above are critical to the development of Ogoni land and cannot be relegated or jettisoned. On polluted land remediation, HAPREP contracted 21 remediation companies in January 2019 to undertake remediation works in Ogoni land within a 6-month period. As we speak, all 21 lots are still on site undertaking remediation. 18 months after they signed the contract, none of the contractors have attained 50% of required work. Again, the first quarter of 2020, HAPREP contracted another 36 remediation contractors to undertake remediation work. So far, work done is below stakeholder expectations. Despite minimal progress in the implementation of the UNEP recommendations for Ogoni land, significant work remains in tackling the land contamination legacy and its public health, socio-economic, cultural and environmental implications in Ogoni land. The overwhelming joy and excitement that enveloped the Ogoni nation during the flag off the Ogoni cleanup can be restored. Ogoni Cleanup is a multi-stakeholder project and everyone should be allowed to play its role for the achievement of the project goal.
As the world evolves economically and politically, so also youth are marching up to take over political positions in various countries. Just recently, a 23-year-old female became Nambia's youngest as a member of the parliament, holding the position of MP and deputy minister. The report has more details.
The 23-year-old female who became Nambia's youngest member of parliament, holding the position of Information and Technology Deputy Minister, Emma Theophilus, a law graduate. Theophilus was part of President Hage Jingobo's list of 8 non-voting members announced and sworn in recently. Her ascendancy to the deputy ministerial position has had many people questioning her experience and suitability for the post. But Theophilus confidently shut down such assertion, noting that anyone is able to learn, understand, and acquit themselves with the task at hand to be able to do a job. She said, "I do not think I am special, but I do not think I am inexperienced. And I do not think being young or being a female has anything to do with my appointment. Anything I set myself to and in any environment I want to walk into, I can do it. So the issue of inexperience does not hold any water." She said she will not go into the ministry thinking I know it all, but would acquaint herself with the work already done. Theophilus noted that there is more than meets the eye in terms of deputy ministerial post and that the portfolio requires a lot of coordination. So of course, the minister being the head of political appointee and the deputy minister allowed the whole ministerial position to function. It is a supporting role, just like any law has supporting regulations to allow it to function. She said, "I do not think being a deputy minister is a role that cannot be brought to life. The person should know that they have planned for that position and anybody can do it. It is not an insignificant role," she added. The Ministry of Information and Communication Technology has an important role to disseminate information of the government. I feel that needs to be improved so that people know exactly what government plans are on the way and the role the government plays, she said. She stressed that as a nation, access to information is important in terms of human rights and thus it would be a task she would take upon herself in this position. The deputy minister added that she would accept the position as a new challenge, and she has had a fair share of challenges such as serving in various positions at Nanso High School, deputy mayor and deputy speaker of the Children's Parliament of Nambia. She has also worked with various youth groups such as Global Sharpers Windhoek.
Despite the track record of older generation youth, Nigerian politics is fast dominated by old politicians, as it seems that poverty has denied so many youth from taking political positions. Well, we have our own various opinion as to why youths are not holding political positions in Nigeria as a country. I would like your comments to be stated in the comment section below, but before this, let's go briefly on the news.
Despite growing evidence of youth activism and mobilization, Nigerian youth have yet to achieve the level of inclusion required to gain representation in politics. Leadership deficits, money politics, poor internal democracy among the older parties, and an absence of a strategic political agenda pose ongoing barriers to young people playing a role in national development. Despite the track record of older generation youth, Nigerian politics is becoming exclusively preserved of the older politicians, as seen from the constant recycling of government officials, especially those in their 60s. For many years, particularly after the country's return to democratic governance in 1999, youths were at best seen as supporters, mobilizers, or political foot soldiers hired to instigate violence, manipulate elections, and intimidate opposing parties. While this image is not completely the fault of the older generation, these groups enjoy the idea of youth as political mercenaries rather than competitors. With the signing into law the Not Too Young to Run bill in 2019, led by President Muhammadu Buhari, this trend seems to be changing as youth are beginning to see the importance of their role in governance. The bill was part of the advocacy role of Yaga Africa, the youth initiative for advocacy, growth and advancement, and the Not Too Young to Run movement, which opened up the space to increase youth participation. Among other changes to the electoral law, it reduced the age of presidential candidates from 40 to 35 and for House of Representatives candidates from 30 to 25 years. As a result of the bill, there is positive trend in youth participation, with youth candidacy increasing from 21% in 2015 to 34.2% in 2019 elections. Despite these changes, the numbers of youth aged 18 to 29 voted into elective positions in Nigeria is less than 1%. Further, there are no youth in the new cabinet formed by President Buhari, and neither is there a youth in the National Assembly. This is despite youth making up over 67% of registered voters on average, which means that whoever they decide to vote for is sure going to win the election. Poor funding and high cost of nomination forms for various offices remain a major obstacle to youth representation in politics. In the run-up to the 2019 general election, the cost of nomination forms was as high as 45 million naira for presidential aspirants, 22.5 million naira for governorship aspirants, 7 million naira for the Senate, and 3.8 million naira for the House of Representatives. Few Nigerian youths are financially buoyant to pay this sum, and since donors and godfathers usually prefer older men whom they believe have the chances of winning, young people are naturally disenfranchised. Thus, while in theory they are not too young to run, in practice the youth find themselves too poor to run and in a dilemma of how they mobilize sufficient funds to be eligible for representation. With a rapid expanding population, the future of Africa is general, and Nigeria in particular belongs to the youth, who have a vital role to play in national development. The honors therefore rest on African leaders to ensure that young people are given the pride of place in African politics.